We're off. Hello, and welcome to Eppendorf Lab Channel, your home for experts and knowledge live. I'm Matthew Yurkevich, a marketing manager for Eppendorf SE here in Hamburg, Germany. We're all very excited to have you here, joining us for the latest installment in our series of webinars on digitalization. Today's presentation is entitled The Rise of the Virtual Lab Ecosystems. In this webinar, we would like to highlight how you can enhance your lab and environment and bridge the gap between R&D and production by means of the digital solutions in the Eppendorf portfolio, which can satisfy the demands of your research. I'm excited to welcome our expert presenter, Dr. Simon Weniger, Business Manager, Digital Solutions at Eppendorf SE. He and his team work to create digital solutions to empower scientists and biotech companies to make the most of their lab work. Hello, Simon. It's great to have you here. How are you?
Hi, Matthew. I'm doing good. Thanks. Great for having me.
And we're happy to have you here and to be a part of your presentation. Now, before Simon gets started, I'd like to take a moment to direct your attention to the interactive portion of Eppendorf Lab Channel. If you look to the right of the screen, you'll see a chat window. Feel free to use this space for any questions, comments, or reactions you might have. One of our applications experts is monitoring the chat and ready to help. After the presentation is completed, we will have a short Q&A period where Simon can address any questions you may have. You can also message us for information about demos and more in-depth conversations. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to hand the reins over to Dr. Simon Weniger. Simon, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Matthew, for that introduction, and hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today. So, as Matthew said, my name is Simon, and I'll give a short webinar on the topic of rise of the digital ecosystem. So I just want to start very, very shortly about Eppendorf. I think most of you will know Eppendorf. You know, we are a life science company, and we mainly focus on developing and selling instruments, consumables, and services in laboratories worldwide. As it implies, we are a global company. We are acting in over 26 countries with now over 3,600 employees. One thing that I always find very interesting and also very, very interesting is that we are still a family-owned business. So we are still 100% owned by the two founding families, and we're founded in 1945 in Hamburg, Germany. Everything that we do is centered around our mission that I personally very much love. The mission is Eppendorf contributes to the improving human living conditions in the world. So with that much about Eppendorf, I want to now focus a little bit about our product spectrum, which I think also a lot of you might know. So you know that we have a very broad product spectrum, ranging from our pipettes to the bioreactors, where I'm actually coming from, to the centrifuges and freezers. What you see here is that this is a very diverse product portfolio, right? So we have, and we always, while developing those products, are focusing on creating the best product for you and the lab that is using it. But what we also see is that there is a change, right? The change is that people, and especially labs in the professional environment, are changing from that very product-centric view to an actual workflow view. So that means that while we offer those products, we also need to change our approach from that very product-centric to a solution-based approach. And this is all very much enhanced by the upcoming of digital solutions. So in the future, we believe that the laboratory will be enhanced by digital solutions and will help you to focus on your next breakthrough. So what we now need is like a layer that connects all of those products that I was showing before, and that helps us to actually give a more solution-based approach, right? And one thing that I focused on, or I focus on actually a lot, is that this needs also not only a change in products, but especially a change in business models, right? And here we have an example that I've taken from Tianso. And he proclaims that there is a change going from a very traditional business model that we all know. So we have a product, right, that is sold through various channels to our customers. And this business model is somewhat changing. We don't know how, but it is, right, to this new business model. And in this new business model, in the middle, he proclaims that there is a subscriber, and this subscriber is using services and has experiences through those different channels. I really, really like this view, but I think there is one major flaw with it. And that flaw is that, especially when you think about us and our company and how our customers use our products, that you'll see on the right side that the product is not there anymore, right? So this model that you see here is very much focusing on purely digital products or service offerings. But we are, as we still offer products within the laboratory, we'll need to make some adjustments. And for that, I actually came up with a model that I want to walk you through now and that we'll use throughout this presentation. So for us, it all starts customer-centric, right? So everything that we do is focused on how our customers are acting and what is the highest value for our customers, right? So this is, whenever we develop a service or product, this is the main point we're going through. And now the first time the ecosystem comes up, right? So what happens is a customer is always acting within an ecosystem. And as far as we wish that a customer would only use Eppendorf products, we know that this is not the case, right? So within a laboratory, there are many different devices that are used, and they're from different companies. And so this is one example of an ecosystem of a customer. To reach an ecosystem of a customer, you always need an infrastructure and logistics. So this could be classical infrastructure, that there could also be digital infrastructure, right? So, and we can use this infrastructure in the end to take our products and services that I've shown you before and deliver those through the infrastructure into the ecosystem of our customers. I hope, and giving this one short example, as I stated earlier, we know that our customers are always thinking in workflows, right? Or sometimes thinking in workflows. And here's an example where we can take parts of our product portfolio and channel it through those various layers in this model here to the actual need of our customers. So we can actually pick specific products and services that are relevant to the actual workflow that a customer wants to conduct. Okay, I now want to take this model that I've shown here and that I've stated here and walk you through it and show for each layer examples on how we at Eppendorf actually act on this. So starting with the customer-centric, I think it's clear that, as I stated, that the needs of our customers are the center of all our future developments. And as we know, when there are different factors when you consider that you need to consider when managing and working within the laboratory. And I think four main ones that we always have in mind are stated here. So you see the sample security that is, I think, at the heart of each person that works into a lab. We see an increased compliance pressure. So this is something that we all need to think about. And for sure, you want to know how are the devices actually performing, right, within the experiment, or also mainly, for example, for maintenance tasks. And last but certainly not least, we have the experiment management, right? So the experiment is actually what is conducted in the laboratory, and you want to know and you want to manage your experiment as best as possible. So those, as an example, you can see when we start developing, those are some of the needs that we always have in mind when developing our products and services. Okay, and now to the actual heart of this presentation, the ecosystem, and what I and we actually understand under an ecosystem. I think one of the main challenges of an ecosystem, or to be more precise, the business ecosystem, is that there are so many different ideas out there. So when you talk to 10 people, you probably get 11 thoughts on what an ecosystem is. And I actually did in previous research that I conducted, I tried to come up with a definition and a more precise understanding that actually helps us as a company to act on it, right? So here, first of all, I actually just want to read it out. It's a definition that I really like that a friend of mine and from my alma mater came up with. So a business ecosystem is a dynamic, at least partially open structure of interdependent yet autonomous actors who coordinate their activities towards a shared purpose to co-create value. So there are a lot of words in there that I think are pretty much self-explanatory. Some I will go through, but first of all, I want to also start, where does the actual word come from, or the word business ecosystem? The first time it comes up in literature is in 1993 by James Moore, and he compared how businesses act to the actual biological ecosystem. And here I have a comparison. One is you have those loosely coupled systems within interdependent relationship of organisms. And then on the ecosystem part, business ecosystem part, you see that we are talking about cross-industry systems of interdependent players that working together cooperatively and competitively. In the classical ecosystem, you have an exchange of energy, of materials. In a business ecosystem, you have the exchange of data, information, resources. In an ecosystem, players are interacting with their environment. In a business ecosystem, we have a joint alignment of players on a common value proposition for the customers. And actually starting with this value proposition, I came up with a model to describe business ecosystems that are shown here. I'm not going to explain it in all the detail. You can look up, it up in the internet or just contact me directly. But what I think is most important for ecosystems are three parts here. So one thing is the substitution, right? So when I offer something, might it be a product or a service to an ecosystem, can it be substituted? This is always something that I need to ask myself, right? On the other hand, there's the cooperation. The main thing about ecosystems is that we are working with companies on the one hand, where we are cooperating, right? So there's a strong cooperation between, for example, two companies. On the other hand, with that same company, there might also be competition, right? Not in the same ecosystem, but maybe in another one. So this is when this word comes up that's on the right side, is a co-petition. So this is always something that I have in mind when I think about ecosystem, is that co-petition. It is about players who are normally maybe are in a competition position, but within the ecosystem, they're actually cooperating to create value for the customer. Again, always also very important is that ecosystems are mostly cross-industry and that companies evolve in a co-evolution approach. Okay, and now thinking about that third layer that I was describing, the infrastructure and the logistics. So we have Eppendorf actually developed a platform called Visionize that you might know about. So the important part about Visionize is that there are different aspects on how you can actually connect to it. So we have our Visionize touch-enabled devices that are directly connected to it. You can connect all the Eppendorf devices via the Visionize box. But very important is also that you can connect third-party devices and so-called offline devices, or what we call Visionize user-enabled devices, for example, pipettes. On the Visionize platform, we then have different apps and applications that you can use to enhance the productivity within your within your laboratory. And the platform is always developed further. So what I think here is the important part is that you can see that we are actually providing the infrastructure that we need and that our customers need to connect all their devices within a laboratory. Okay. And when we now look onto the products and the services that can be provided through this infrastructure into the ecosystem of a customer, we'll see I have two examples with me. The first one I want to start. Let's take a data perspective approach when looking at an experiment, right? So first of all, we need to design the experiment, right? We need to describe the scientific workflow. The second thing is that we actually need to plan the experiment, right? We add specific resources that are needed and so on. And the third one, for sure, is you need to execute your experiment. So, and in the end, you need to fully contextualize the data that you capture. For this, we developed an app that is actually running on the Visionize cloud. It's called the Experiment Management, and it's it gives you full control over your experiments via a modular and reusable building block approach. So you can see here that, and I'll just go into it very, very shortly. You'll see that you can actually design your experiments with modular building blocks that are then executable in any lab. The planning is done with a varying number of samples. You can add devices and staff. You can use consumables, including actual layouts. And in the end, you have the execution. We can take device data, and you can track deviations from your planning and have a complete sample track. On the right side, you see a screenshot of how the app then looks while you use it. And then you can actually, as you can see, you can use it with your smartphone in the lab. Okay. So if you're interested maybe in using this, the app I was just showing you, and we are still looking for test drivers, so contact us here or contact me directly and I will forward it to you. Okay, the second example that I have actually comes from the division that I'm working for, the bioprocess division. In bioprocess, especially cell culture, the scale up is a very important approach. So it's the bridging actually between the R&D and the production. So the yield optimization mostly happens at small to bench scales, so roughly less than 10 liters. And then you have production that's go up to up to 50,000 liters. But there's an important part where we need to have a process transfer from the production, from the R&D to production, and this is happening here. So what happens for us, because we are very, very strong in the small and bench scale field, is we actually developed a controller that you can see here. It's called BioFlow 720. It's designed to be very scalable, efficient, flexible, and it's completely application driven. And the important part here is that this controller also runs with the consumables of Thermoscientific, the High Performer 5.1. And what we can now offer our customers is actually the scale up from our portfolio, the vessel volumes from around about 100 milliliters up to those 500 to 2000 liters. And I think this is a very great example for an ecosystem where we as Eppendorf work together with Thermo in this case to offer our customers a value that there is very much needed and that we can provide together in a very great sense. Okay, I'm actually coming to an end, and I just want to wrap up a little bit about what I was talking about before. So I think it's very important when we're talking about ecosystems that we get rid of this very product-centric approach. So we need to think about smart, intelligent, and integrated solutions for our customers, right? The rationale behind it is that we are actually going from scaling and a knowledge transfer to an innovative approach that gives us a rapidness of market entrance. And the value creation, I think, is also very, very important. So going from this classical profit mode, we need to go to a joint and continuous value creation, actually a co-creation, right? And we do that to actually offer sustainable innovations and have stronger relationships with our customers. And with that, this was about my webinar. So if you have any questions, if you want to talk about your experiences with ecosystems, if you're interested maybe setting up ecosystems with us, always feel free to contact me. And yeah, now I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Simon. That was very informative. And we do have a couple questions from the crowd. The first one from Toby is, what do you think really changes when comparing traditional to ecosystem approaches?
Okay, yeah, great questions. I'll go back a couple of slides and I'll go from there. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll take this one. Okay, so as you can see, here's the model that I was talking about, and I think I stressed a lot the two parts of the cooperation competition. But actually, when you go a little bit more into detail, there are a lot more things you need to focus on. One thing I touched already is the product-centric to customer-centric approach. The other thing is that I think is very, very important is that we go from this very much silo thinking, so only thinking about my data and my product, to a more co-evolution approach that is stated here, right? The other thing is that also coming from the silo thinking, we all know, and just might it be from our personal lives, everything is connected, right? Everything is digitally connected. And this will also be the case for the digital lab, sure, right? And this is why we need solutions like the Visionize Cloud, for example, that offer us or offer the possibility to make those connections. And I think the last thing I want to focus on is in those classical approaches, there's always this command and control, right? You always want to command and control the complete market. In an ecosystem approach, it's actually shift this, is you want to start initiatives and you want to orchestrate yourself and your partners to offer the best value for the customers. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and we had a second one. Can you give another example of companies acting within an ecosystem?
Yes, I actually can. I think, yeah, let's take this slide, but I'll give you an example that's not from the life science industry, and it's from the actual automotive industry, because I think it actually illustrates that idea very much. So in Germany, or at least in Europe, we have a car sharing offering which is called Share Now. And Share Now is a joint venture by Mercedes and BMW. And Share Now was created because they each had their own offering, but they saw that it's just not feasible and in this market to compete against each other. And this is why they created Share Now, a platform where you can now get free floating car sharing from Mercedes and BMW. And I think when we think about those two brands, I mean, they are both selling cars. They are actually addressing the same kind of customers. And I always think that it's a great example for this kind of competition, right? They are now having a joint venture in the mobility market. And you have those two big companies that are now working together here. So I think this is a great example for an ecosystem.
And I got one more question for you from
Sure.
Christoph. Are you going to be building that ecosystem, or are you also just going to be joining the ecosystem?
I think it kind of depends on where you're looking, and also thank you for that question. The example that I showed you, and let's go maybe back to here. In this case, we want to help actually create that ecosystem, right? By providing that that platform here. But I think we are also willing to join ecosystems of our customers on other levels. So I think we'll take a a twofold approach in that sense, I would say.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Simon, for your presentation. It was very informative, and we look forward to learning more about the digitalization solutions at Eppendorf.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye, everyone.
Have a great day. To learn more about Visionize and Eppendorf Digitalization Future, visit eppendorf.com/visionize. Find out how Visionize and Eppendorf are your lab software solutions for effective lab and maintenance management. One platform offering all the options and tools you need in the modern lab. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast on February 22nd. It will be the fourth installment in our digitalization series, Research, Documentation in the Digital Age. You can go to eppendorf.com/lab channel to save the date in your calendar. If you miss out on the broadcast or any other past events, you can also view all our previous episodes at eppendorf.com/lab channel. Watch them all on your time and use the links to contact the experts with any questions, comments, or reactions. On behalf of Simon and everyone else here at Eppendorf Lab Channel, thank you for taking the valuable time out of your day to join us. And until we see you again, stay safe and have a wonderful day.